We're going to begin with our usual campus sound checks. Conduct that? You want me to? Okay. Could we hear from the downtown campus?
Yes, we are here, Shirley.
Thanks, Amin. Checking in from the Polytechnic campus.
They did fact check.
They're checking for us. Sound check.
This isn't good. Can you hear us? Hello?
Can they hear us?
Can you hear us?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, okay, good.
MP campus is good. And a check-in from the West campus.
We're here. Can you hear us?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Ken. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order and welcome you all. I'm especially appreciative of your being here on this Monday of the last week of classes. I'm especially grateful for the time that you give to your Senate work. We'll go ahead now with our quorum calculation clicker question.
So just a reminder that the clickers appear to be asleep, so there's nothing on the screen. You want to select number 3 for the Tempe campus. I'm speaking to my audience here. And if it doesn't pop up, you want to press menu. So go ahead and begin. The poll is open.
Maria, it's not showing.
Oh, I apologize. Now we're showing. Yay. I think it's the first meeting we don't have trouble with the clickers on the first try. We finally got it right. We're going to be closing the poll in about 5 seconds. Last minute entries. Closing the poll. We're going to go ahead and initiate the second poll. In the last month, have you contacted members of the academic unit you represent to ask if they have any concerns they will want you to bring to the Senate, to University Senate for discussion? A for yes, B for no, and C, I promise to do that this month. But we're hopeful. Last minute entries. Closing the poll. Shirley?
Thank you all. I appreciate your willingness to do this if you have not already. Maybe in the spring we can talk some more about some good strategies for eliciting input from the units that have elected you to the Senate. Thank you, Maria. Okay, we'll go ahead and begin with, we have 3 informational reports. So let's go ahead and get started with those. The first is from Kevin Salcido, Vice President for Human Resources.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I wanted to thank Professor Rose for the opportunity to address the Senate. We had a meeting with a smaller group probably about 2 months ago, and we talked about some general benefits items, and she invited us back to share those items with a larger group. So our objectives today are to discuss our major benefits relationships with other parties, talk a little about how ASU splits the cost of benefits with our faculty and staff. We're going to discuss some new family-friendly policies that we launched last summer, and we'll open it up for any questions or comments at the end. I'd like to introduce Judy Cato. She's our benefits director, and she's going to be helping me with the presentation. And as I mentioned, if you have any questions about benefits at the end, and there's always questions about benefits, I've asked Judy to stand up here with me because I would just defer them to her anyway. So those are our objectives, and with that, we'll start. So let's talk about our health and wellness programs. This is our traditional health, dental, vision. As I've noted there, these plans are offered through the Arizona Department of Administration. If you ever hear a reference to the ADOA, that's the Arizona Department of Administration. So this is one of the few ties we have to state government. As Dr. Crow mentions many times, we are not a state agency. We are a learning enterprise, but we do have a tie to the state government through our benefits offerings. As I've also noted, the universities, which would include our sisters, the U of A and NAU, have represented about a third of the total pool. I believe there's a little bit over 100,000 employees and participants in this employee pool, and we represent about 33,000 to 34,000 combined. Now, I will say, and this is no secret, which is why I'm discussing it here, that we have done several studies over the years that have shown that the university employees are kind of subsidizing a larger pool in that we pay a little bit more than we take out when compared to other plan participants. The reasons for this are probably 3 or 4-fold. One is university employees tend to be clustered in the metropolitan areas where healthcare costs are lower. Number 2 is university employees tend to be better educated and have higher incomes, which are 2 predictors of better health outcomes. And the third would be, again, what would be the third one? Our culture. We have a culture of wellness here. So with that stated, we've known about this problem for a number of years. So Dr. Crow and the other university presidents are on record as saying that our preferred arrangement would be to have our own plan sometime down the road. That would be to either have the legislature give us the authority to create our own plan at ASU or to create a university plan. We would want to do this because of cost. As I mentioned, we are subsidizing the larger pool. Because of control, we have very little control over how the plan is designed. Because of communication, again, we have little control over how the plan is communicated. And because of culture, we believe that we are a large enough organization to have our own health plan. We're up to about 12,600 benefits eligible employees. We are one of the largest employers in the state. Again, this is preferred, and I will take great pains to point out here that we have no active efforts right now to separate from the state plan. So I just want to be on the record with that. So any questions about our relationship with the ADOA before I move on? Yes, Dr. Searle. You might point out that it's not our choice. That's true. That's true. It's not our choice to be in this plan, and we've looked at a variety of strategies to exit the plan. Part of it's legal, and part of it has political overtones as well. So it's something that we discuss frequently, and I think we're just waiting for the dominoes to fall in our favor and make a move in that direction. Any other questions or comments about this? Great. Now, I will point out on this slide that ASU continues to pay the heavy majority of our total costs. This slide is a price structure for our EPO, our exclusive provider organization. If you recall, there's 4 tiers within our plans. One is for employee, one is for employee plus spouse, a third is for employee plus child, and one is family. In this example, you can see that the employee-only participant pays about 7% of his or her overall healthcare cost, with ASU paying 93%. Going down to the bottom there, when you see a family premium, the employees pay about 16% of the total premium cost, with ASU picking up 84%. Now, when I do research online to see how other employers are doing cost sharing, I would say that these rates tend to be about 8 to 10% higher than what you find in other large employers. So the headline here is ASU continues to pay the lion's share of cost for our employee participants. That's the EPO. You all know that we have a PPO. I'm sure you all know this, right? Right. This is somewhat of a different plan than the EPO. And you can see the numbers are very similar as far as cost sharing goes. And this is our high deductible plan, which we would like to see higher participation in, because you can see the premiums are very low on this plan. An employee in the high deductible plan is only paying about $22 a month for healthcare, which is an exceedingly good bargain. So those are our ASU health care cost sharing rates. Any questions or comments about this? Now, on the one hand, I will say, as I mentioned earlier, when I was discussing our relationship with the Department of Administration, one of the reasons the state of Arizona prices these plans so aggressively is because they do have a lot of very low-paid employees. So they're sensitive to the corrections officer or the caseworkers in child care services. And so they endeavor to do their best to keep premiums low and to engineer the price structure to drive people to the better plans. So there is a benefit for participating with the larger pool. Not that we would ever raise those costs ourselves, but they're very mindful of keeping the premiums affordable. Questions or comments before I move on? Great. There's another mandatory benefit, our retirement plans. You may recall, when you were hired, you had to make a choice between two retirement options. As I mentioned, retirement is mandatory here. It's not like at the private sector where you can opt out. The first plan is the Arizona State Retirement System plan. This is a defined benefit plan. It's a pension plan. The Arizona State Retirement System is not officially a state agency. I believe it's its own subdivision of the state, but it's a huge benefit plan in Arizona that has literally hundreds of thousands of participants. I believe the plan covers public employees, teachers, municipality workers. About the only people who are not covered by this plan are public safety officials. You can see that currently the employee pays a little bit less than 12% of his or her retirement into the plan, and ASU matches that at 100%. So for every dollar contributed by an employee in this plan, ASU matches with a dollar as well. Now, the way pension plans have worked over the years has changed. Public employers are probably the only employers now that offer pension plans because of their expense. Years ago, that rate was about 2.5%, as recently as I believe 2001. And it has climbed to almost 12%. So it's a very expensive plan for participants. The other plan is the optional retirement plan. This is a plan that's offered through the Board of Regents. So all university employees and employees of the board can opt to participate in this plan. This is a defined contribution plan. This differs from a pension plan in that there's no guaranteed benefit at retirement. It operates, it's technically called a 401A plan, which is very close to a 401K plan. It operates by employee contributions, ASU contributions, and the performance over time is largely dependent upon how the employee decides to invest his or her funds. So one plan is defined benefit, one plan is defined contribution. Different cost structures for each plan. Questions or comments about these plans before I move on? So those are our major, oh, sure.
As far as I know, the 7% has been unchanged for 15 or more years.
That's correct.
And at last time we looked, the Senate looked, there were a number of universities that had a 10 or 11% match. Have you done a current study of what other universities do?
That's a great question. We have not done a formal study. We've done informal benchmarking, and you're entirely correct. Most large universities are closer to 10%. Some are even at 12%. So if you were to put this plan on the scale with other public offerings, we would be on the lower side of the scale. So it is a spot-on point, and part of it is you have to look at our expense for benefits in totality, and in my estimation, we are overpaying for the ASRS and underpaying for the ORP. That's my view as an HR professional. But again, there's political implications, legal implications for participating in both plans. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, so in addition to these major offerings, health, welfare, dental, vision, retirement, we also have another layer of benefits having to do with family-friendly policies and voluntary programs. And I've asked Judy Cato to speak to those for a few minutes.
Good afternoon. Back in May or so, President Crow announced that we were launching some new family-friendly policies, our family-friendly programs, and we rolled those out in July. And since then, we've had a lot of utilization of those programs. Some of the programs, as you may recall, were the paid parental leave. We increased the time period from 6 weeks to 12 weeks. We also rolled out 2 new subsidy programs, the fertility subsidy and the adoption subsidy. So far, we've had about 40 employees take advantage of the fertility subsidy, and maybe about 2 or 3 take advantage of the adoption subsidy. There were also 2 other programs that were announced at that time that we have put temporarily on hold, the changes to the bereavement policy and the emergency child care. But the programs that we did roll out have been received very well, and they've been utilized a lot by our employees. Do I have any questions about any of those programs that were rolled out? The subsidies for the fertility and the adoption are $2,500. We also have some other programs that we offer to employees that aren't utilized as much, and maybe we don't communicate those as well. But we offer a group home and life policy through MetLife, where you can get discounted rates on your auto and home insurance. In addition to the basic life insurance that ASU provides for you, we also offer supplemental life, and those 2 policies and programs aren't utilized as highly as our other programs. In addition to the mandatory retirement programs, we also offer a 403B and a 457, so that if employees wanted to put aside more than the 7% that they have for the ORP, they can do that themselves in the 403B or the 457. And all benefits eligible employees are eligible for these programs. Another program that's not utilized as much on the employee side, people use it for their dependent children, but they don't use it that much for themselves, is the tuition waiver. And there's a study being undertaken right now to determine why our employees aren't using that program as much as they perhaps could. Any questions about any of those programs? Last year, we rolled out for the first time what we called a total compensation and benefits statement. And this statement shows that the value of not only the pay that you get here at ASU, but also the value of the benefits, the retirement contributions, and any contributions that ASU makes on your behalf. So this is an easy way each year to take a look and see not only the value of the pay that you're getting here in your salary and your paycheck, but the value of your medical, the dental, the vision, the contribution we make to your life insurance, what we pay for your retirement, And all of those things are shown here on your total compensation statement. We rolled it out again this year, and the plan is each year we'll update it with your salary from the previous year and your information from the previous year. And this will be available to kind of give you a snapshot of the value of what we're providing here at ASU. Yes, it's available through My ASU. And I would turn it back over to Kevin.
So those are the major highlights of our benefits program. There's one point I want to emphasize, and that is the voluntary deferral programs, the 403B and the 457F. I know when you start tossing these terms around, eyes start to glaze. But these are incredibly powerful programs that are specifically designed for public sector employees. You can defer up to an additional $20,000, depending on your age, into these programs, tax-free until the time you decide to take them out. And your money is more accessible into these plans than they are in the ORP. You can actually take money out of the 403B. You can stop contributions at any time. You can increase contributions at any time. So again, it's a powerful salary deferral tool and a tax reduction strategy. I encourage you to take advantage of that if you're not currently doing so. With that said, I'm going to make one reference to a new learning platform that we launched, again, back in July. We had a very busy year in human resources. This is our ASU Career Edge learning platform. This is where we have centralized all ASU required and elective training. So if you've heard references to ASU Career Edge, this is what we're talking about. As you know, from time to time, you are asked to participate in ASU required training, whether it's information security or other EH&S programs. A variety of departments across campus also have mandatory training. So this is our way of centralizing all training under one learning program. The benefit of this, it's one-stop shopping for training. And two, it actually creates a training transcript for people who participate in training through Career Edge. So heretofore, we have not had the ability to look at somebody's training records and see what training they've taken over the years. This gives us the ability to do that now. There's also a variety of voluntary training programs offered through LinkedIn that are available to you if you choose to use them. So as you hear references to ASU Career Edge, this is what people are talking about. So with that, I have no more slides. However, we do have a few minutes for questions.
Thank you, Kevin. I'm going to ask the other campuses. They didn't get a chance to raise questions at any point during your presentation. So let me just ask them at this time whether there are questions from the West Campus for any part of Kevin Salcido's presentation.
Am I on? One quick question. Does this Career Edge website, will that also include the courses we have to take through environmental health and safety?
Yes. Lab safety training, working with minors, things along those lines are all accessible through ASU Career Edge.
Thank you. We have no further questions.
Thanks. Any questions from the downtown campus?
Yes, we have a couple of questions.
Yeah, I just had a question about how one might become involved if there is an active effort to separate from the state plan, because I have, having worked in the private sector and for the state, ASU has some of the best benefits, and part of that is the size of our pool. Thank God it's got a pension. It's the only one of the only places left that has a pension, which is obviously 401ks work really well if you have a lot of money to put in them, but they're regressive if you don't. And I also think a lot of our employees are low paid too, which you had mentioned that our employees are not, but a lot of our staff actually is. So I just want to make sure that there's a lot of communication if we decide that we do want to go with our own plan and separate from the state, that we really look at the real implications of doing that, because it would make us a smaller pool, which can have implications as well. So health insurance is an area that I've been involved in a lot, and it really concerns me if we're going to look at separating from the state. It sounds good, but in the long term it may not be. So would there be an effort to involve folks, or would there be a way to be involved in that, should that be an effort that is to take place?
I'd just like to add one thing to your comment. The insurance that we have right now is fantastic unless you're transgender, in which case it covers 0 of your medical care. and that's gross discrimination against our faculty, staff, and dependents. And our connection between our insurance and the state is exactly why they're allowed to get away with it right now.
Well, you are making two disparate points that I previously raised. One is on the cost issue. I think our first, and Dr. Crow would say this as well, our first principle would be if we were to separate, which is the big if, our primary principle would be first, do no harm. We would never do this primarily so we could raise premiums or otherwise play around with the cost sharing structure that I shared as well. It's just a matter of getting maximum value for our benefits dollar. So think of you paying one auto insurance rate and you were paying the same as your neighbor who had a terrible driving record. That's kind of the problem that we're looking at. How do we get maximum value for our insurance dollar? So it would not, if we were to go our own way on benefits, it would not be primarily as a cost-saving measure, because at least is the second point that was raised, and that is controlled. Yes, you are right. There is no coverage for gender reassignment surgery under the state. And again, that gets back to what I said earlier about cost control, plan design, things along those lines. We get very limited input opportunities, almost zero input opportunities for the way this plan is designed.
We just have another quick question from downtown. The first, I'll make it a two-part question. One question is, why was the emergency child care and bereavement plan updates put on hold? And how do we access the ASU Career Edge?
The first portion is it's primarily just a funding issue. We're still scrambling to find some funding for this program, and honestly, we've just not been able to, so we continue to work in that area, and as soon as we're able to secure funding, we'll go ahead and restart that program. So primarily, it's funding. The second portion was Career Edge. I believe it's accessible by, I think you can Google ASU Career Edge, or it's also available through My ASU.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Questions from downtown?
Thank you. Do we have any questions from Polly?
No, Lisa, no. No questions. No questions from Polly?
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from Tempe?
Thank you very much. All right.
Our next informational report is going to be presented by Georgiana Montoya, who is Associate Vice President for Student Services. We've asked Student Services to especially focus the report today on issues about residence halls.
Good afternoon. You guys are lively. Let's do it again. Good afternoon. Thank you. So I'm Dr. Montoya. I'm the Associate Vice President for Student Services here at Arizona State University. And please don't get rid of the ASRS. I'm so close. Okay. Been here at 25 years at the university, so I started in grad school here and worked in various roles. Currently, portfolios overseeing all university housing across all locations, managing our dining services component, as well as our memorial unions. And if you were there today, we had a little flood that went on the second floor, so that was exciting. But one of the things, standing in for Jennifer Hightower, our VP for Student Services, she wanted just to give a brief overview where we are with university housing as we continue to increase. So this year we have about 16,000 students living on campus across all 4 locations, which is amazing in one breath and also daunting in another. They are here 24/7, 365 days of the year. So what are we doing to ensure that they are involved in programs, they're involved in community service, they're involved in making good choices so that when they end here with retention and graduation and matriculate into society, that they're good Sun Devils and that they're actually contributing members to society. So what we do a lot with that is our programmatic piece is we have our academic colleges, in which a lot of you might be involved in, that we have different residence halls for different colleges. So the College of Engineering is in Tucker House. We have our liberal arts and sciences in Palo Verde East West in Manzanita Hall, W.P. Carey, et cetera, downtown Walter Cronkite School West. We have various things. We're also building a couple new residence halls. And so Poly will open in fall of 20. We're going to be 20, right? That's where we're going to? 20. We're going to have 384 new bed spaces at the Polytechnic campus opening up. And we're also going to have a new building downtown of about 532 bed spaces fall of 21. We are currently in conversations of fall of 22, fall of 23 for West Campus as they continue to grow, which is fantastic as well. And then we're looking at Tempe to ensure that we have enough stock, as we believe next year we're going to have over 17,000 students living in residence with us. So it's a continuation of looking at what we have currently, where do we move, and how do we do some master leases. So a lot of our upper class students, we've been moving them to master lease properties in the surrounding area, which we have our CAs involved over there, which is our community assistants that live in. There are students that are usually juniors and seniors, some sophomores, that live in 24/7. We also have community directors, which are our master's level students that live in as well. And then we have assistant directors that oversee that arena. So we have a high staffing as we continue to increase. It's about 40 to 45 freshman students to every CA, our community assistant. And for our upper class, it's about 60 to 1. So when we are increasing this, we're also increasing staffing to ensure that safety is first and foremost for our students, and that the programmatic piece from the academic college is also there. There was a concern or a question brought up regarding an elevator, and I've done my diligent work on this to figure out if there was any type of altercation with an elevator that fell 2 floors, 3 floors. I have seen nothing. We have no reports of this. So if you want to tell me exactly where that was, we can look into it further. However, the only thing we know about elevators that occurred at the beginning of the years in Tucker Hall was we had students that decided sticking their flip-flops into the elevator shaft was a good idea, and that the elevator itself, it shut down. And that's what it was supposed to do, because it saw something in the elevator, so it actually shut down. So it may have gotten stalled, but that's the only thing that we've been aware of from an elevator kind of concern. Anytime students do, Hacienda is another place, they like to press a lot of buttons. They're learning math skills, that's what we think, right? When they do this, the elevator itself will shut down too. It overrides it because it doesn't know what to do. And so we have to have the elevator people come out to us and actually reset it for us. So it's a safety mechanism. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Dr. Montoya, I'm sorry, school student safety is not a joke. I was the one who brought up the issue about the elevator. It's not the only issue at Manzanita, so I want to know.
Okay, so Manzanita, I didn't know what hall.
Well, it's Manzanita, and I'm going to tell you about a whole bunch of issues that were going on at Manzanita last year. This is in part reading directly from an email from one of the students who lived there. The elevator was only one of many issues, and I want to understand why you're not aware about this and what confidence we can have that anything like this is currently not going on and not being addressed. So for instance, the washer, this will take a little while, but the washer dryers were horrendous. And the plastic seals always had what looked like mildew or black mold. In fact, this student got sick. Both of them got sick. And there was black mold also in dorms where students had to move. You have issues with the maintenance staff who have skeleton keys and able to get into student rooms. Often when students are taking naps, somebody woke up and found one of the maintenance people going through their stuff. Another student was not fully dressed. We have ADA issues. Both of my students had issues where they needed to hit the button to get into the doors. By the time they got to the door would shut and lock. Okay, and all these things were communicated to their community assistants and community directors. So I don't understand why this isn't fully being communicated upward. Okay, on the elevators, they had direct experiences about the elevators not only falling multiple floors, but and stalling. One of the issues was if they didn't have a connection on Instagram with somebody up there, there were students who were trapped. The buttons didn't work. This isn't a joke. This is student safety, and it's a fundamental responsibility. And so I want to know what's going to go on to make sure our students are safe in the dorms and there's enough oversight and these things are being addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your candor. However, these are also anecdotal and we got to ensure. So your students, they need to talk to us. If we don't know about it, we cannot fix it.
I said they talk to the CAs and the CDs. What part of that doesn't work for you, please?
What part of that doesn't work for us is if we don't know this for sure. So I recommend to you, I will give you my direct phone number. You can call me. We can have a conversation so that I could bring in those students personally and have a conversation.
Now,
Safety
there's
is
a system
first.
problem. Excuse me, there's a system problem
Senator
here
Wells,
if that's not
Senator
going
Wells.
for you. I'm not going to take this
Senator
up
Wells,
by myself.
I'm going to
okay?
ask you to moderate your tone.
So I'm just very upset that this has happened
I
to our
appreciate
students and there doesn't seem to
I
be a lack
appreciate
of
that.
accountability.
Can
And
you
that's why I'm
modulate
making
your
clear,
tone?
and it's not acceptable. Thank you.
Hi, I just want to add to the voice of Manzanita. I actually have a daughter who goes here. She has several friends in the hall and their parents have wanted to move them out of Manzanita. So just to put another voice. Also, the parents were very frustrated in terms of not knowing who to go to. So when you were talking about channel of communication, I think it would be helpful for us to know who to send them to, because she came to me and I said, contact the CA. I said some of the things, but I didn't even know where to tell this parent to go to get information.
Okay.
So just wanted to tell you it's not, I've also heard the same things about Manzanita from parents. So.
Okay, that is good to know. Once again, I will do my due diligence and go back to Manzanita and figure out what is going on there. We don't have those complaints. We have not seen that through our TMA system, nor have we heard it from students.
So where would parents, so if she asked me again, where would because she went.
So
she had
first
her
of all,
daughter-
we want our students to be the first, they're living there, right? We want them to be the voice. We want them to learn the communication skills. They would go to their CA first. If that is not helping, their community director. In Manzanita Hall, we have 2 full-time staff that live there, that they can, first floor, they can always go there. We have an assistant director, and they can always text me, call me, and I will ensure that it happens. I was a 4-year resident. I understand you live there 24/7. And so it's important. And so I don't take it lightly, sir. I just want you to know I do not take this lightly. This is something we will address.
Okay, good. So I'll tell the parent. I mean, I think the kids tried to do it themselves and they were frustrated. And that's when their parents got involved. So anything that could give them, I think, a direct avenue to be able to go to someone.
Right.
If the first person they go to is unresponsive, would be helpful for them.
Right. And we will have a conversation with our community directors immediately.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm going to check with the other campuses
That's
to see
fine.
if there are additional questions. Any questions from West?
We have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Any questions from Polly?
Can you just ask how many beds are coming to the dorm?
384.
Yeah. That's all.
So, no question from Polly. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from downtown?
No questions from downtown. Thank you.
Thank you, Samin. Thank you again.
You're welcome.
Okay, our third informational report this afternoon is from Manu Ipe. Manu is Senior Fellow for Leadership and Institutional Design, and we've asked her to give a presentation this afternoon about the various leadership programs that she directs.
Thank you, Shirley. Good afternoon to you all and to colleagues from the other campuses. I'm here representing a group of people at ASU who are working on our leadership initiatives Two of them are here in the room, Kevin Salcido from HR and Deb Clark from the Provost's office. Our goal here is to build a leadership development system that produces leaders at every level of the institution that can take us forward. So when we talk about leadership here, we are not referring to people only in administrative leadership positions. We recognize and acknowledge that there are many, many ways to lead at the institution, and we want to institutionally support individuals, both faculty and staff, who would like to advance their skills in these areas. The programs that we talk about are 5 university-wide programs. These are not the only things that are happening across campus. Individual units have invested in their own leadership development efforts, but we are here reporting on those that are available to the broader ASU community. Our goals are to expand thinking on leadership and leadership development and leaders itself. So moving away from the idea of leaders as administrators to really thinking of the many ways people can lead at the institution and support those individuals. Of course, we are interested in aligning with and supporting ASU's charter and our mission. We hope that our leadership development programs, because they are university-wide, allows for the development of networks across the institution. We are a large, fast-paced institution, and sometimes bringing people together from different academic and non-academic units can be a very quick way to build those relationships that individuals can then leverage to go on to advancing other things that they do. We want to strengthen and support our culture by having people who can support where the institution is going, and we also want to invest in developing a leadership pipeline, that we are supporting our deans and other leaders by investing in people from their units who they believe have opportunities to advance at the institution. So we are intentional and focused with what we do. We want to invest in people who will lead ASU into the future. The goal is not to be exclusionary in any way. You'll see that all of our programs are nomination-based. So we really are leaving it up to the local leadership to determine who we might invest in this way. Local leaders also invest in many, many other ways. We want to try and identify talent early and give people the opportunity to test their skills in the leadership area and decide if this is really what they want to do. We want to make sure that our leadership programs are embedded in the context of ASU, that these are not generic programs, the sort of things that you will get if you went somewhere else, that this really is fundamentally focused on who we are as an institution. We work really hard across all of our programs to deploy best practices in the field. We are constantly looking at new developments in the leadership space. I'm a faculty member with a background in organizational behavior and leadership myself, and many others who are leading these programs have backgrounds in leadership as well. And then we innovate continuously. None of our programs look the same year to year. We try to flex and adapt and keep pace with the changes that are happening at ASU. So there are 5 programs that we think of as university-wide. There are 2 programs on the left of the screen, the Supervisory Development Program and the Mastering Leadership Program. These are run by Human Resources, by Kevin Salcido's team. Supervisory Development Program is for any staff person who moves into a supervisory role. The Mastering Leadership Program is for senior staff members. And these programs have been underway for many years, and we've had some remarkable outcomes from these programs. The other 3 programs, the green, the blue, and the maroon, are programs that touch faculty. The Leadership Academy, the one in green, is the oldest of our programs. It's about 8 years old now, brings in about 33 faculty members primarily with a few staff who are either in positions of some leadership right now or considered high potential by their deans. So everybody that makes it to the Leadership Academy is nominated by a dean or an equivalent non-academic leader. The program is a year long. There are 3 workshops. People come in with a project that they work on, that the dean has signed off on. So there is actually an activity that goes along with the timeline of the program. There are 360-degree assessments at the beginning and at the end of the program, so people have some personalized data on how their skills are being perceived by others. Everybody works in small peer coaching groups. So 3 people working together to support each other's goals during the year. And in addition to these offsites, there are also 2 what we would call brown bag sessions every semester that everybody in the program and alumni of the program are invited to. So these are usually topics that our cohort determines are important to them. So what's covered in the workshops are skills. So delegation, difficult conversations, communication, managing large teams, managing up. So a lot of skill-based sessions. There are also sessions that are focused on ASU. So we routinely have leaders, including Provost Searle, who come and speak to these participants who talk about where ASU is going. Deans will come and talk about the things that they see at their level. Non-academic leaders will provide overviews of where the institution is going. So the goals of these workshops are both skills and an overview of where ASU is going so that individuals can really benefit from the broader perspective as well as the practice piece. The program in the blue, the Launching Leaders program, is a program sponsored by the Provost's office, launched last year, for new chairs, school directors, and associate deans. The goal here is very specific. These are individuals moving into fairly complicated roles, and so this is the institution's way of supporting those who are moving into these roles. This is an 8-month program. Our group meets almost every month. And we really spend time engaging on topics that are important to this group. Most of the topics are focused on these roles and the challenges and opportunities with these roles. We don't just engage the group in these conversations. We use ASU-based case studies to get people into deeper understandings of situations that others have faced in the past. We routinely bring experienced chairs and directors to share their wisdom and insights. Provost Searle kicks off the session for us. Deb is actively involved in determining the topics and how we organize this session. So that's a fairly new program for ASU, and we have individuals who leave having had an opportunity to learn more about these roles, set themselves up for success, but also leave with strong networks that they can leverage well beyond the 8 months of the program. The program in the maroon, the Advanced Leadership Initiative, it's 4 years old. This is a program that brings together about 15 leaders from across ASU for a 6-month experience. All nominees come through deans and non-academic leaders. All academic nominees ultimately come through Provost Searle. So deans send us nominations. Provost Searle is also involved in making a final decision. This is for a group of people who are institutionally operating right below a dean or below an equivalent non-academic leader. The goal for this program is to bring together people who are already established as successful leaders, but it is to bring them above the unit within which they sit to help think about ASU more broadly. So this is saying you're great at running your role in your unit. How can you have a broader perspective of where ASU is going? And to help do that, we engage almost all of ASU senior leaders in this program. So President Crow, Provost Searle, Ponge, deans, non-academic leaders are involved in having conversations about where ASU is going. Individuals in this program come in with a project that they're working on, again, signed off by the dean. There are assessments. Everybody gets a professional coach from outside for the duration of the program. And really, it is an intense network building, skill building effort. So this is sort of an overview of where we are. We have anchoring these programs is something that we call the leadership guide. These are 9 dimensions of leadership that we think are helpful in a context like ASU, developed really in conversations with ASU faculty, staff, and leaders in different places. We will be happy to make all of this available to you. We'd love to get your inputs and thoughts on how we actually advance these ideas at ASU. but primarily wanted to just give you a sense of what we have on the table right now. If you know people who could be nominated to these programs, if you would like to participate in these programs, this is what we have. Very quickly before I wrap up, just wanted to let you know about 2 additional opportunities out there. With the leadership guide, again, guide I think sounds sometimes like it's an instructional word. It is not. These dimensions of leadership that are in the guide are, I would like to borrow Shirley's phrase. She called it habits of mind, ways of thinking about leadership. These are not rules, processes, things that we all have to believe in and buy into, but just ways of thinking so we have some shared language when we talk about leadership at ASU. If you would like to have a conversation about leadership with your team or people around you, we have a 2-hour discussion kit. So we've got materials packaged with exactly how you might engage in a conversation. There is a 1-hour discussion kit if you would like to do it in a shorter time frame. You can contact me or you can contact Michael Dolan, whose email is listed there. We'll be happy to send you the resources. Another resource that is actually available only to this group outside of the Leadership Academy are our learning sessions, or what we call brown bag sessions. So Donna Cataldo, the previous president of the Senate, wanted to make some of these opportunities available to members of the Senate, and Shirley has absolutely supported that effort. So twice a semester, you all get invitations to these sessions. They could be skill-based. So I believe one we had in fall was focused on decision-making or delegation, and there was a second session on the knowledge enterprise. What is a knowledge enterprise? What does it do? Who are the people? Who do you need to know to do the things that you do at ASU? So these learning sessions could be either skill-based or something about ASU that is of interest to our participants. So we would welcome your continuing participation. If there are topics that you would like to see in these sessions, please let us know, and we will be happy to put them together. And that's what I have. I'll be happy to send out digital details along with this deck with the details of the programs. I know I didn't put too many things on the slide. I was trying to avoid making the slides cluttered, but we'll send you digital packets so you can see these details. We're happy to take any questions.
Do we have any questions from Tempe?
Crystal Bryce from the Sanford School. So I just had a quick question. I know our school especially has a lot of non-tenure eligible faculty, and we often see these opportunities come across the desk, and then you find out, oh, it's only for tenure track faculty or tenured faculty. Is that the case also for this, or are non-tenure eligible faculty able to participate in any of these leadership academies?
So could we have the slides up, please? Let me go back to this one. So the program in blue is only for tenure track faculty because most chairs, school directors, and associate deans are tenured faculty. There could be some, probably associate deans who are not tenured. But to your point, both the Leadership Academy and the Advanced Leadership Initiative are not limited to tenure track faculty. We do have non-tenure track faculty in those programs as well.
Do we have any questions from the Poly campus?
No questions from Polly. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from West?
No questions from the West Campus.
Thanks, Ken. Any questions from downtown?
No questions from downtown.
Thank you, Sabine.
Thank you all, and thank you, Shirley.
I wanted to note about a dozen of our senators indicated their interest in a session that's offered tomorrow on storytelling for your organization. So there's been a good amount of interest from members of the Senate. So thanks again for opening that up to senators. That's the last of our informational reports for today. Thank you all for your attention. I'm going to keep my chair's report quite brief and to note that last Senate meeting a question was raised about concern about bias against instructors who are women and people of color bias in student course evaluations, and I wanted to let you all know that we're in the process of reviewing research related to this issue and identifying models of ways other universities have addressed this bias. And an RFC related to this will be assigned to a Senate committee for consideration, although we haven't determined which one yet. Next on our agenda is a report, or more accurately an announcement from the Committee on Committees. This will come from Chris Kaiselka, the chair of that committee, and she's reporting in from the Poly campus.
Good afternoon, Senators. The Committee on Committees met recently to go over our planning for the Academic Assembly elections, which are coming up in the spring, likely to be held in April. And an important step toward this process is to recruit candidates for campus president-elect, as well as new members of the grievance committees. And so that is the step we're in right now, and we really need all of your support in this endeavor because we want to have a good election coming this spring. And so all of you have received a survey. All faculty and academic professionals received a survey recently asking for nominations for your campus president-elect, as well as your nominations for the new members of the grievance committees. And so I would ask that all of you take some time to nominate as many people as you can. There is until Friday to complete this survey. So please check your inbox and complete that survey. It really would help us greatly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. Before we move to new business, I'm going to ask Provost Searle to come up to make an announcement.
We all take pride when ASU wins the football game, as we did on Saturday, but I wanted to tell you that our students in a different competition set the tone for that a couple weeks before that. There was the inaugural Regents Cup. This was a competition between NAU, U of A, and ASU for students to demonstrate their proclivity in civil dialogue, and to do this through 4 different mediums: storytelling, a form of debate, an Oxford debate, and I'm forgetting what the 4th one was. I was there, but I forget. But what I'm happy to tell you is that Valiesla O'Keefe and Joshua Party from ASU won the competition and won the Regents Cup, which is currently sitting on the 4th floor of ASU, but at Fulton, but it will be moving to the 3 of the 4 campuses where students participated in the Regents Cup, and so it can be on display for an equal period of time at each of those campuses, because there was a total of about 14 students who participated from each school. Anyways, they not only won, and so they win this very nice cup, but they also win $16,600 in scholarships each. And our students also took 3rd place, and those students were Jessica Carter and Logan Guthrie, and they won $12,500 scholarships each, and the rest of the team won $500 scholarships for their participation. So it was a great opportunity. U of A hosted it, and it was very nice to see the president of U of A present the ASU students with the prize. I have a photo of that. But it was really a tribute to our students. Obviously, it reflects the preparation and the learning that they're getting here among all of us. And I want to thank Jenny Bryan from Barrett, Lois Brown from the college, Nicola Foote from Barrett, Jennifer Lynn from Hugh Downs, Adam Simons from Hugh Downs, Bonnie Wenzel from New College, and Fred Corey in my office, who's also in Hugh Downs, for their leadership. They were the coaches of the students, and they prepared the students, and they did a terrific job, and the students really did the university proud. And so I wanted to highlight something of our student achievements outside of the athletic arena for all of you. So thank you very much. One other thing. When ASRS is mentioned, I always get emails after this saying, don't eliminate ASRS, please don't do that. We're not. Okay. There was a discussion about wouldn't it be nice if we didn't have it at some point, but in the meantime, we have it. There is no plans to leave it. And if that should change, obviously, everybody will be notified, but nobody in it will be adversely affected. It would only be for new employees, never for continuing employees. All right? Thanks.
Thank you for that report on the Regents Cup and for that clarification. We're ready to move now to new business, and I will ask Lily Wang, Chair of the CAPC, to come up and present the CAPC motions.
Hi, everyone. The following motions and proposals will be taken up at the CAPC meeting this Thursday, December 5th, and then will be brought back to the Senate for vote at our next meeting on February 3rd, 2020. So if you have any questions, concerns, suggestions, please get them to me by this Thursday so we can make sure that they are addressed at the CAPC meeting. And certainly let us know before the next Senate meeting so we can make sure that all parties that have an interest can be represented. So here goes the motions. Request from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, School of Life Sciences for the establishment of an undergraduate certificate, Evolutionary Medicine. Request from the College of Health Solutions for the disestablishment of an undergraduate certificate, Health Science for the Peace Corps. Request from the IRA Fulton Schools of Engineering, School for Engineering of Matter, Transport, and Energy for the establishment of a graduate certificate, Semiconductor Processing. Request from the Herberger Institute for Design and Arts, School of Music, for the name change of an undergraduate degree from music education to music learning and teaching. Request from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, Dean's Office, for the transfer of an academic program, Master of Liberal Studies and Master of Liberal Studies Film and Media Studies from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences to the College of Integrative Arts and Sciences.
Thank you, Lily. We'll move now to old business. First item on the agenda for old business is the new course proposal consent agenda, which was distributed via email on November 20th. Does any member want to remove an item from the consent agenda? It was circulated on the 20th.
Is the resolution in support of President Crow's statement on free speech part of the agenda, or is that separate?
Yes, that's coming up.
Is it part of the agenda because it's under this old business? So that's what I wasn't sure.
It's listed under old business, and it is coming up later in the meeting.
Okay, but it's not in this part.
Yes, thanks for your attention to that, Lee. Okay, I'm asking if where am I? The new course proposal consent agenda. Are there any calls for changes? Any calls for changes from the consent agenda from the downtown campus?
No changes from downtown.
Any calls for changes from the from the West Campus?
No changes from the West Campus.
Thank you. Calls for changes from the Poly Campus?
No changes from Poly Campus.
Thank you. Okay, now we will move to the CAPC consent agenda.
We're actually going to go ahead and vote on that.
Oh, sorry. I'm a little eager here.
So we're going ahead and the poll is now open. Please cast your votes. Do you approve Senate Motion 2020-28, new course proposed consent agenda? A for yes, B for no, 3 to abstain. Last minute selections. Closing the poll. The motion passes with 90 yes.
Thank you, Maria. Now we will move to the CAPC consent agenda.
The following proposals were approved at the last CAPC meeting on November 7th. Request from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, School of Earth and Space Exploration for the establishment of an undergraduate certificate, water resources. Request from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, Department of English for the disestablishment of an undergraduate certificate writing. Request from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences for the transfer of an undergraduate certificate, aka Academic Organizational Change, Veterans Service and Society from Dean's Office, the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences to the College of Integrative Sciences and Arts. Request from the Herberger Institute for Design and Arts, the Design School for the establishment of a graduate degree, MS in Innovation and Venture Development. Request from the College of Health Solutions for the name change of an undergraduate program from BAS in Applied Science, Food Service Management to BAS in Applied Science, Food and Nutrition Entrepreneurship.
The CAPC consent agenda for program proposals has been presented. Does anyone wish to remove an item? Any calls for removal from West?
No calls from West.
From Polly?
No calls from Polly, thank you.
From downtown?
Nothing from downtown.
I'll call for a motion and second on this. Moved by McGregor. Second. Second from Harrison. Thank you.
We will open the poll now.
Thank you.
Do you approve the curriculum and academic programs consent agenda? A for yes, B for no, 3 to abstain. Last minute votes. Closing the poll. The motion passes with 95 votes.
Thank you, Maria. Now we're ready to move to item C on the old business agenda, resolution in support of President Crow's statement on free speech, civil discourse, and student conduct. This is brought to the Senate by the UAC, and it was circulated November 27th, along with your agenda for today's meeting. Lee, did you have a comment? This has been moved and seconded by the UAC, so we'll move directly to discussion.
I have a point of order, and that is this should be a first read. It's new business, not old business. Right? So the point of that is if it were an emergency, something that was extremely timely, we could vote to suspend the rules and then to consider this as old business. But I'm not hearing that as a proposal. So we can engage in discussion about it, but this is not up for vote at present.
I'm going to ask our parliamentarian to speak to this.
It was sent out as a first read.
It can't be sent out as a first read. It has to come to the Senate for a first read.
It was sent out to the Senate as a first read, the same way we do our courses.
Yes, so it comes to the Senate now as a first read, not as old business.
This is the problem that we're talking. The way we have new business and old business is going to be changing because technically you're correct. But the way that things have been done is that new business is actually the first read. And so that's why we don't have anybody say anything when we present like what was just read for CAPC.
Right, this is a first read, and so technically there isn't discussion on it. It's informational, but the president at her has the liberty to invite discussion, but it's not for a vote.
Again, this is no different than how we're doing it with the courses, where we have sent out courses as first reads, and we don't read through all the names of the courses here. And we put that under new business. This is going to be changing pretty soon. Now, if you'd feel more comfortable, I am comfortable calling for suspension of the rules and voting on this here, if that would make you feel more comfortable.
I think that's the rules of this body are that you have 2 reads and substantive measures have to come to the Senate first. That's what I'm saying. And part of the reason for that, of course, is that it allows you time to communicate with colleagues about this and to get input on something that's this important. That's the reason.
The rules of the body also allow for electronic first reads. And so we sent this out electronically.
Okay.
But we can, I'm comfortable if somebody wants to make a motion to suspend the rules, and if we get people willing to.
Senator, is your argument that it's not appropriate to vote on this today because you haven't had an opportunity?
Sure.
To have
my argument would be this is not like first course reads where nobody is concerned about them because it's already been done beforehand. This is important stuff, and there are a variety of questions. I have a question about exactly where, for example, this fits into our policy. What is the status of President Crow's comment? How does this relate to the adoption of the Chicago Freedom of Expression statement? I think that there are some issues that need to be discussed and clarified because this is so important.
Okay, so I appreciate that. So my question now is, do you feel you and other senators need more time to consult with your constituencies, so we need to delay the vote, or
yes,
are you merely asking that we have discussion today?
I'm asking to delay the vote so that people have a chance to actually communicate with their colleagues to find out what concerns there may be. One of my colleagues here already has some. I don't know if there are others who have those too. And there are questions, and those are properly brought up under a second read.
Okay. So you can make a formal motion to delay vote until next time?
Okay, I move that the vote and discussion on this be delayed until the next Senate meeting.
Okay. Do we need a second for that? Okay. Caroline Harrison has seconded that motion. And Maria, can you prepare that motion for us to vote? We'll be voting on delaying a vote on this resolution until our February 3rd meeting.
Are we allowed to have discussion today, though, or not?
Yes,
Okay.
we are, but she needs some time to get it ready. So the motion that we're voting on now is whether we're going to delay our vote to allow you all to have additional time to consult with your constituencies on this matter.
Point of order. If it's a first read, there's no discussion. If this is a motion that we want discussion, then there can be discussion.
Yeah. Thank you, Denise. We have to decide what we're doing procedurally, and I'll follow your advice on that. My concern is senators have said they need more time to allow their constituents to give them feedback on this, and I think we have to do whatever we need to do to make that possible.
But
So
not
help me
have
out.
discussion now.
Okay.
It is appropriate to raise
This is
questions.
just discussion on the idea of delaying
Okay.
discussion.
Point of order, you can have questions raised, but not a debate on it. On a first read, you can have questions raised.
We will allow time for questions. Is there any discussion of the motion to delay voting until the February 3rd meeting? Discussion from Polly.
No, thank you.
Discussion from West.
We have nothing for the discussion at the moment.
Discussion from downtown.
No discussion from downtown. Thank you.
Maria, do you have that motion prepared? The question is, do you approve the delay of Senate motion 2020-33 to next Senate meeting, February?
Second.
It's February 2nd. Sorry, I got the wrong date.
Yes, February 2nd, 2020. Last minute votes. Closing the poll. The motion passes with 63 yes.
Thank you, Maria. We do have time for some questions.
Is it okay if I read a statement and offer the question at the end?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lee.
I absolutely hate speaking at these things, so I wrote my thoughts down today. For those who don't know me, my name is Lee Bibo. I work in the English department here at ASU, and my research and teaching are in the fields of Latinx studies and critical whiteness studies. For those who don't know, critical whiteness studies is the examination of everyday white supremacy. I have both a scholarly understanding of the situation that President Crow's letter responds to, and as some of you know, a more personal connection to it, as I have been harassed by local and national hate groups in the past, about 4 years ago. I appreciate the dilemma that President Crow and the upper administration are in. We are living in heightened times of conflict, and they are attempting to thread the needle of the tolerance paradox, as some would call it. How do we perform tolerance and inclusion when that also means including and tolerating those who do not tolerate or include others, right? How do you tolerate everybody, including neo-Nazis? President Crow's statement attempts to thread this needle by saying that we are an inclusive university and respect diversity. But this also means embracing a free speech policy that includes hate speech. The resolution before us today doubles down on that message. While I fully believe in a robust exchange of ideas as being part of the heart of a university, and I understand the need to protect free speech, we should not confuse free speech as the ability to use hate speech by any and all. Simply put, not all people have access to the terms of hate speech that are protected under free speech. I am a 6'1", 200-pound white dude from Texas and Chicago. Nobody has ever told me to go back to where I came from. My students have been told this more than once on this campus. When I've walked to class, I have never had a hate preacher shout at me and get in my face and tell me that I deserve to be raped. Although I have heard this several times hurled at our female students. These are examples of hate speech. These are also examples of free speech. And the administration may well have a legal obligation to protect them. However, ASU also has an obligation to stand by our students who have been attacked or who are generally left feeling unwelcome in our school. Crow gestures to this in his statement when he says, to be clear, this is his quotations, ASU condemns behaviors and actions that threaten or intimidate any individual or group of individuals on the basis of race, color, religion, age, national origin, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, expression, disability, veteran status, or any other particular status, end quote. It is right that ASU condemn these things, but there is a distinction between enforcing the allowance of hate speech on campus through policy and saying that we condemn this speech. One has the force of policy and the other one simply does not. The policy of free speech protections allows the university to punish those who get in the way of this speech. The mere condemnation of hate speech does nothing to actually make students feel included. 3 days after President Crow's statement, leaders from various student organizations that primarily serve students of color, the Undocumented Students for Education Equity, MECHA, the Movimiento Estudiantil Chicanos de Aztlán, Black Lives Matter, and Students for Justice in Palestine, and other organizations, they gathered together and held a press conference and read public statements articulating how ASU has failed them in terms of inclusion. This is actually a video that's available on YouTube, and I can send it to anybody who's interested. I won't go into their specific complaints in great detail, but they did mention the administration's failure to communicate the presence of ICE and Border Patrol on campus. They mentioned the continual refusal of Multicultural Student Center that has been requested for years. And they mentioned a vocal willingness to condemn racism from some groups, but not others. This statement by our students was a clear response to Crow's letter. And while I understand the legal reasons to protect hate speech as free speech, I am dismayed that many of our students of color have not had adequate policy directed at their concerns. Regarding the resolution today, I cannot in good conscience support a statement that protects free speech when that statement also fails to advance policies that will support our students who are regularly the target of hate speech. I would like to conclude with 2 requests and a question. First, I urge the administration to take time to more carefully listen to their students from underrepresented communities. I know many administrators will say that they have listened, but the fact that our students don't feel that way speaks volumes. Second, I urge ASU's administration to recognize that the issues of white supremacy and heterosexism and other related systems are both imminent and continual. They need to be treated with the seriousness of global climate catastrophe. These concerns are not to be relegated to committees on inclusion, although those committees may do very valuable work. Rather, this is an everybody issue. The university needs an actionable plan to create inclusion beyond acceptance into the university. Hey, you've been admitted, but also belonging once people are actually on campus at ASU. We have experts who publish regularly on these issues. They're mostly in the social sciences and the humanities. And those experts should be at the table helping ASU's administration in this regard. Lastly, I think if the Senate is to vote on this resolution in the future, our members should at least be able to watch the video or preferably hear from the students who have expressed concerns about this policy. And so my request is, can we invite student leaders who serve student of color groups primarily to come and talk to us about their feelings of safety or lack of safety and lack of welcoming on campus before we vote to support President Crow's resolution.
Thank you for that suggestion. Melanie, please introduce yourself.
My name is Melanie Bertrand. I'm with Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College. I'd like to say that I completely agree with everything Lee Beboat has said. I would ask, my question is, what would the ramifications of the resolution be in light of the safety concerns? When I read it, in light of for instance, some research by Michelle Mosley, a scholar at CU Boulder, and other commentary that you can find, for instance, in the Chronicle of Higher Education about free speech and hate speech and safety, especially for students of color, LGBTQ students, female students, et cetera, on campus. So the question would be, what would the ramifications of this resolution be? And also, how could we possibly envision a different type of resolution that really seeks to expand the inclusivity and for students of color and also take a stand against hate speech? Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. Do we have questions from downtown?
No questions from downtown.
Thank you. Questions from West?
No questions from the West Campus. Thank you.
Questions from Poly?
No questions from Polly. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move now to our 2 committee chair reports. And I'll ask the chairs of these committees to keep their reports brief. James Lyons, Chair of the Research and Creative Activities Committee.
Good afternoon. So the Research and Creative Activities Committee met for the first time about 2 weeks ago, and we discussed 3 open RFCs, requests for consultations, and I'm just going to go through the 3 of those in our discussions of those. The first one is RFC 111, which is an update on high-performance computing issues as far as faculty are concerned. That's a RFC that was opened about 3 years ago. And the idea there was to survey the faculty to see if HPC, high-performance computing, is meeting the needs of the faculty. And since that time, since it was opened, high-performance computing is now part of research computing in KED, in one of the research core facilities. So the organization has changed substantially. And one of our members of our committee feels that there has actually been a substantial improvement in faculty friendliness and queuing prioritization and issues of this sort now that high-performance computing is part of KED. So we really came to the conclusion that it's not entirely clear that we need this RFC anymore. So I'm going to ask you guys if you are aware of any HPC issues. This probably doesn't, of course, affect everybody, but a few of you. If you are aware of any HPC issues in your unit, let me know so that we can, if necessary, go on with the actual survey that we were going to do originally. So that was the plan, but perhaps we don't need to do this. So we're not sure at this point. But some feedback would be helpful on that. And I'll survey my own unit, Earth and Space, as well, just informally. Okay, the other RFC is RFC 147. Which is to consider the issue of whether an open access publishing fund should be established at ASU. Open access publishing funds support publishing in, of course, in open access journals, and they are a topic that is not uniform, excuse me, getting over a cold. They're not uniformly utilized, I would say. So University of Arizona has one, and University of Colorado has one that I personally actually benefited from because I had a co-author from University of Colorado. We, of course, do not have one. UCLA does not have one. So I mean, one could survey many universities. They are very useful, actually, for untenured faculty who are looking at a publishing fee that they may not have the funds to meet. So it is certainly something worth considering. Now, the University of, and I should say, I have been contacted by people from Professor David Soroki, for example, in political science, who is really asking, can we please establish one of these funds? It would be very helpful for them, apparently. That was just recently, just a couple weeks ago. The issue is, I think, has changed a bit because the University of Arizona 2 years ago had an open access fund and they abolished it. They don't have it anymore. What they have now is an open access investment fund. So the point there being that they have some allocated amount of money, 1, 2 million, I don't know how much it is, I haven't really dug into that yet, that they then take the interest from that yearly and use that to pay the open access publishing fees. So I like that idea because it provides a natural cap for the fund. You don't have to, hit up the provost for additional funds every year because it's growing too fast or something like that. It's a natural cap built into it. I have no idea whether we can establish such an investment fund here. I know nothing about that really in detail, but I think it's something worth looking into. And furthermore, I think it would be interesting to consider the possibility of finding a philanthropic donor for such a fund. Now, there may be other issues associated with that, but that remains to be seen. But that is the direction we're going, and I welcome any comments on that topic. And the last RFC is 149, and this is on the topic of the ethics of utilizing illegally obtained data from the internet, the so-called dark web RFC. The idea here is, the example more or less given, is if there is a breach of security and data, as of course we all know happens fairly often, and data is released and to the public, it's publicly accessible, is it ethical to use it by us for research or whatever we're doing? So this was from the Provost's office in November 2017, and I think it's fair to say Joan McGregor led a little bit of research into this. They came up with a draft policy document. I think the real question is, do we want a policy on this? A quick survey of other universities indicates that it's not a common thing to have a policy for. So we don't know whether we should do it or not. I mean, in one sense, we might be on the leading edge of such a thing, which would be interesting. Okay, the ethical issues are things such as, of course, lack of privacy, and there are many ways one can be harmed through the release of data of that source, even if it's anonymized data. Okay, so we're going to be looking, moving forward, we're going to be looking into what other universities are doing across the country, as well as across the world, actually, because we don't have a whole lot of data on it at this point. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for that report.
Should I stay for questions, or?
Do we have any questions? Questions from downtown?
No questions from downtown.
Questions from Polly?
I have one.
We have one question.
Kirill Hristovsky, Polytechnic School, Fulton Schools of Engineering. I have a question with respect to the open access journals. Have you considered the predatory policy of many of open access journals because in your discussions, because a lot of these journals that are open access, they're there to get the money. They don't care what they publish and how they publish or who they published. Thank you.
That's a great question. Yeah, we are well aware of the predatory publishing practices of journals. So we will have, I didn't really discuss it, but we will have a prioritization scheme for which journals would be allowed to be part of this. I mean, I've dealt with MDPI as an example, and it's quite insane. So one does have to be careful. So yeah, we're aware of that, but thank you for raising that issue.
Questions from West?
No questions from the West Campus. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your report. We also have a report from Johanna Uriri Glover, who is chair of the Student Faculty Policy Committee. Johanna, are you presenting from downtown?
Yes, thank you. We met November the 25th, and we were working on RFC 199. And it is from the undergraduate student government. They adopted a resolution SR07 to address the barriers to students voting in local and national elections. They request that there be no graded assignments or exams on election day. And we also found some verbiage discussing that it should not even be a class day at all. So we're in the investigation stage. And so we're going to meet with the students. We're going to go to their meetings and invite them to our meetings to kind of get clarity on what actually their needs are. We're also going to look at what other universities are doing across the country. We also are beginning to work on their goals and priorities to see where our committee fits in with that, where we can support our students in those endeavors also. Any questions?
Questions from downtown?
No questions from downtown. Thank you, Joanna.
Questions from Polly?
No questions from Polly. Thank you.
Questions from West?
Questions from West. Thank you.
And I see no one at the microphone here in Tempe. Thank you, Johanna, for that report. We'll now move to the open forum time. This is a time that senators can ask questions, make statements, or present topics of interest to the Senate. I see someone is coming to the microphone here in Tempe.
Just to do a full circle on the question of free speech, I just confirmed, talking to Mark Searle, that the university doesn't have actual formal policy statements, that what President Crow said and the Chicago statement from last year are statements of opinion. The only place in university policy that we talk about free speech is in the AC manual. It's AC 204-02. I would suggest that the Senate have a committee, whether it's student faculty policy or a special committee, to take to revisit this this policy. It seems dated to me, and I think in light of the more complex discussion we're having these days, I think that it would make a lot of sense to look at this for revision, and that might possibly be part of our discussion in February.
Thank you. Anything else for open forum? Before we adjourn today, I want to thank Denise for her help today and to elaborate a little bit on something that she announced. We are going to be working on bringing our Senate meeting agenda and procedures more in line with our own bylaws, as far as the order of things on the agenda, and also our practices regarding first readings and second readings and new business and old business. Some of what we've been doing is a little unusual according to Robert's Rules of Order, and is, as I say, not even in compliance with our own bylaws. So that's just a heads up for you. Please do seek input from your constituencies. We have a matter before us specifically. There's been a request that you all have time to do that, so please take the time over the next 2 months to do that, because we will not meet again for 2 months. Thank you all. This meeting is adjourned.